I jumped out of my chair and shouted when this game ended. It was the most epic finish to a game of chess that I think I have ever played in my entire life, and I've played chess for a long time. It was a combination. It was a combination of what happened in the game, the final position, and what was happening on the clock at the same time, and how it ended was absolutely mind-blowing. My only regret is that I wasn't recording when I was playing this game. So I'm going to have to do the best that I can to give you the recap of what happened here. But what you will notice is I'm playing with black, by the way, a rook, a knight, and a bishop. My opponent has a rook, a knight, and a bishop, and an extra rook. And the queens are traded, which is not a good sign when you're trying to attack the king. You want the queens to be on the board, right? So it's kind of hopeless. Stockfish says it's hopeless. I kind of knew it was hopeless, but I wasn't going to give up because at least, hey, my opponent's king is on f5. And I have a rook, a knight, and a bishop, and some pawns. Who knows what might happen, right? And that's why the game actually got really interesting. Now, first, I'm going to show you how we ended up in this wild position, and then we'll talk about how it finished. And by the way, you're going to enjoy this. So I played my Portuguese variation of the Scandinavian, and the point behind bringing out this bishop is you want to bait the pawn to f3 because then you create some weaknesses that maybe you can take advantage of, and you take away one of the best squares from the knight where it usually likes to develop. So I go back, c4, e6. This is all kind of normal stuff. He captured me here, and I always seem to forget this, guys. I don't know what it is, but there's two moves here. Bishop to b4 check, which is sometimes the move, and then knight to c6 is sometimes the move, depending on what your opponent does. And for whatever reason, I always seem to mix these up in my mind, and that's what I did in this game. I played bishop b4 check, when actually the best move is knight c6. I don't know what it is, I just always seem to do it. Anyway, he goes here and I castle. And my idea is, look, I just want to get my king out of the center. I want to use this file to attack his king as quickly as I can to get some compensation for the pawns that I'm sacrificing, okay? So that's the idea. White takes, and then my opponent played a really weird move, c5. And it's a weird move because you're already ahead a pawn, or two pawns actually. You need to focus on developing, and yet my opponent is over here pushing another pawn. It's kind of a weird move. Now, the idea, if you guys are paying attention, is bishop c4. He wants to go here and pin me, or maybe in some cases, if I move my rook somewhere, let's just say I move back, he wants to go queen b3 check and fork my king and my bishop. Okay, those are kind of the ideas behind this move, but really it's not a great move. Apparently, Stockfish says the best thing to do is just ignore it. You play knight c6, you let him go there. Who cares if he takes the rook? You just start attacking and taking stuff, and you go after the king. I didn't see that. I just wanted to go ahead and do my plan, so I brought the rook over. King f2, knight c6, bishop c4 check, king h8, and knight to e2. Now, right at this moment in the game, I made a bad decision. And let me just tell you guys something about me. I am a good chess player. Okay, I'm a master level, 2200 usually on a good day. My rating has actually gone down recently, but I'm not a great chess player. I'm not a super grandmaster. I'm not even an international master. And what that means is that sometimes I make decisions that are not great. And of course, you want to try to make good decisions. You'll win more games if you can do that. But what happens is I end up in these really interesting positions that a lot of times grandmasters never end up in because they don't make the bad decisions that I make, right? I say bad. I don't know why I added the quotes because it is a bad decision. Anyway, the point is I calculated something here which just makes no sense, and yet I played it and we ended up in this mess of a position. That's how we got there, okay? What my brain was telling me was there should be a tactic here with the bishop, okay? Something along the lines of taking here. I have two pieces attacking, two pieces are defending. Somehow I need to take this, get a pin, win my piece back, and I'll end up with a nice attack on the king, and that's... My brain thought it was going to work out, and I calculated a few things, and I thought, yeah, there must be something here. Let me show you what I missed. So I captured, he took. I knew that I was going to have to trade queens, but I thought, okay, after the bishop takes and bishop e3, I thought I could sacrifice my rook and get into a nice position after I bring the other rook over. The problem, and what I failed to realize, was that the king doesn't have to just go back and let me take the knight. There are other options that white has, including the best move, which was played, king f4. And he's basically saying, look, go ahead and take my knight on d4. I'm going to take your bishop on f5, and I'm just up a rook, right? And that's exactly what happens. I don't really have anything else I can do. So I took this, he took me, and I'm like, oh, this is not a good position, okay? Because like I said earlier, white just has an extra rook, and the queens are off the board. Unless I can figure out a way to checkmate this king, I'm in trouble. But I said, okay, it's not hopeless. Let me go rook e5 check. And what I noticed was that the rook is cutting off the king here, cutting off the king here, and my bishop is stopping the king from escaping back here. So the white king is kind of stuck in this section of the board. Now here I had 1 minute and 20 seconds on the clock. Now the clock is going to play a major role in how this game finishes. So that is important that you keep an eye on that, okay? So I spent 30 seconds here trying to figure out what to do. And it was basically a question of should I play g5 check or should I play knight h5 check? You'll notice that my bishop has to stay here. So bishop e3 doesn't work because my rook needs to be defended. I don't really want to move my rook because the rook is kind of boxing out the king from escaping. So it's a question of which move do I play? And I just didn't see what was happening after g5 because yes, the king goes here. I could try to play h5, h4 and maybe do something, but the king's going to be able to tuck over on h3. And that's a slow move. It gives white time to bring other pieces into the game. Didn't really see what I was going to do. So I decided after 30 seconds of thought to play knight h5 check. Opponent goes here, and I went back. And I was prepared to take a draw at this point. I'm way down on time. I'm down a minute in a 3-minute game. And if he wanted to go back and forth, I was just going to take the draw. But he doesn't have to, and he decides to not and goes back to g3. And again, I'm thinking like, okay, what should I play? Should I go with the check with the rook? Should I do something else? There's knight h5 check. I want to keep the bishop here to stop the king from escaping, but how do I get at the king, right? So I went for knight h5 check again, king h3, and I'm trying to keep the pressure up because if I don't keep checking the king and he starts bringing in the other rooks, it's just a couple of moves and the game is over, right? Once he brings the other pieces, I have no chance. So I got to go for the check, right? Knight f4 check. King goes here. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I think I'm out of checks because if I play h5, I lose my knight. If I go here, he just takes me. I have no more checks. And I'm like, this is not good, but okay, I'll just take here. Now, notice my clock. I used some time there trying to figure out something to do. I didn't know what to do. I just took the pawn. I'm down to 18 seconds. My opponent has 1 minute and 42 seconds. This is not a good situation. He goes king g3. King g3, believe it or not, is actually a massive blunder. But when you have 18 seconds on the clock, it's hard to really know what's going on. Okay? So if you guys would like to pause, there's actually a forced checkmate. Now, this is difficult. I'm going to give you another chance to pause after a couple of moves, but there's a forced checkmate in 5 moves from here for those of you who are, above 1,500 and you want to take a shot at it. All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, I played the right moves, but I didn't see that it was mate in 5. Okay, I was just like, I have to play the only logical move that makes sense to me and see what happens. The only move that made sense was check with the rook. Why? Because it doesn't give white time to bring the other pieces over. It defends my knight. My knight is stopping the king from coming here and here. The bishop is stopping the king from here. So I'm actually forcing the king to a kind of a vulnerable square. At least that's what I thought. King to h3. Then I continued down that train of thought very quickly. You can see I only used a couple seconds or a couple tenths of a second to play knight f4 check. And then he goes here. And this is where I was like, okay, his king is sort of in what we call a mating net. Okay, a mating net in chess is when the king is trapped in a certain section of the board. And if you can figure out a way to arrange your pieces correctly, a lot of times you can get checkmate. So I played the move bishop to f6. I played it pretty quickly. What did I use? About 3.5 seconds there. Because it felt like this is the only logical move that makes sense to me. I need to defend my rook to keep his king stuck. Okay, look at this, look at this. His king is basically trapped. And I'm setting up for a discovered check, so I can maybe move my rook somewhere and take a piece, or, who knows what, right? And he plays the move knight to e4, and I have 14 seconds on my clock. So if you guys at home watching this would like, pause the video for 14 seconds, think about it. What move would you play in this position? Go. All right, well, if you had a chance to pause and think about that, I was kind of panicking. I'm like, there's got to be something good here, but this is a really annoying move. Why? Because not only because it attacks my rook, more importantly, because it attacks my bishop, right? Because my bishop is the piece that's going to be delivering the check once I move my rook. But I'm like, anywhere that I move my rook, it doesn't really matter. He's just going to take my bishop. That's not going to be good for me. So I was like, okay, double checks. Can I do a double check, right? Because if I go double check, he doesn't have time to take me because my rook would be attacking his king. But what's the problem? Double check doesn't do anything. He just moves because I let his king escape. Like, that's not going to work. Here's another double check. But then again, he just takes my rook. Nothing's defending my rook. I was panicking. I knew that I needed to move. I didn't exactly even know how much time I had left. I'm like, I'm about to run out of time. I got to play something, but I'm looking. I don't see it. I don't see it. I have less than a second on my clock, and I get an idea. I get an idea, and I play it. I have no idea how much time's on. I think that if I go here with check, and after he takes my bishop, guess what? Move my pawn forward. I'm hoping that this somehow works out. I pre-move it. It's checkmate, and I look at the clock, and I see that I had 0.1 0.1 seconds on the clock. I made the move rook g1 check with 0.2 seconds on the clock, not even fully understanding that this was checkmate. I just had an idea in my brain of like, if he takes, then it opens up the square for my pawn. I hadn't even actually thought about the fact that my knight was controlling all the squares and that it was indeed checkmate. Like, in theory, you would think that I would just know that, but my brain was like, I think maybe it's a good move. I just pre-moved it. That's when I jumped out of my chair and screamed. It's such a beautiful checkmate, but the fact that I did it with 0.2 seconds and then pre-move the last move for the checkmate. By the way, when you pre-move, it uses a tenth of your second. So this was literally my last move of the game. Like, even if I had pre-moved another move, it probably wouldn't have gone off. I probably would have lost on time. So absolutely incredible. And it's a beautiful checkmate. Can we just talk about this checkmate for a second? The bishop is delivering the check. The rook is cutting off here. The knight is cutting off here. So this forces white's knight to take it, which is also a deflection tactic because the knight is defending the square, but we deflect it away so that the pawn actually does deliver the checkmate. Absolutely incredible. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Like, this is what makes chess so much fun. It's moments like this. They don't happen all the time, but when they happen, wow. Like, it is just so beautiful. If you found it, leave a comment. Let me know. What do you guys think? Have you ever had a game like this where it's just like, wow, that's why I play chess, right? Like, that was what this was for me. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Like I said, I wish I had it live, but I wasn't recording. It was just a random casual game. I'm just like pumped up. I'm excited. This is fun chess right here. So anyway, thank you guys for watching and stay sharp, play smart, and take care.